What if the Sweden never existed? If Sweden had disappeared, the world would be deprived of countless cornerstones, cultural legacies, and technological innovations. Had Sweden ceased to exist, the world as we know it today would lack many of its foundational elements, cultural heritage, and technological advancements. Throughout both history and modern times, Sweden has been the source of numerous discoveries, artistic achievements, social systems, and industrial triumphs that have left a lasting mark on human civilization. Below, I will outline Sweden's historical and societal contributions, and then present a comprehensive picture of what the world would lose in a hypothetical scenario where Sweden never existed. Sweden's origins date back to nomadic tribes as early as the 12th century BC. During the Iron Age, the region gained strategic importance due to the local population's development of ironworking technologies. In the following centuries, Sweden became one of the brightest beacons of Viking culture. Between the 8th and 11th centuries, Viking raids and trade routes stretching from the North Atlantic to the Black Sea reshaped the political and cultural landscape of Europe. Without Sweden, a critical piece of Viking identity would be missing, and the maritime traditions and early medieval trade networks of Europe would look drastically different today. From the 12th century onward, Sweden transitioned into a Christian kingdom and, in 1397, joined the Kalmar Union, a long-standing political alliance with Denmark and Norway. In 1523, under the leadership of Gustav Vasa, Sweden declared independence and began implementing a centralized monarchy model. Had the Kingdom of Sweden never been established, the political landscape around the Baltic Sea would have remained fragmented, and the regional influence of Russia and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth would likely have been far more dominant. In the 17th century, Anders Celsius became renowned for his contributions to experimental science by developing the Celsius temperature scale, which is still in global use today. The academic tradition established by enlightened scholars such as Magnus Gabriel de la Gardie laid the groundwork for modern systems of measurement. Without these contributions, the global standardization of scientific data would have been significantly delayed, and the units used in laboratories, navigation, and meteorology could have become disorganized and inconsistent. In the 19th century, Sweden emerged as a leading power in iron and steel production as well as the timber processing industry. Alfred Nobel, through his work with explosives, patented dynamite, revolutionizing the construction and mining industries. The Nobel Prizes, inaugurated in 1901, have since honored the pinnacle of human achievement in science, literature, and peace. Without dynamite and the Nobel legacy, modern infrastructure projects and underground excavations would have progressed much more slowly and dangerously, and vital systems for encouraging scientific progress might never have formed. In the 20th century, the Scandinavian model emerged, a vision of social welfare based on universal healthcare, free education, and job security. Sweden pioneered progressive policies on gender equality, environmental protection, and labor rights. If this model had not come into existence, many countries would still lack access to the healthcare, education, and social security systems that remain out of reach for much of the global population today. Sweden has led numerous breakthroughs in key areas of modern medicine. In the 1950s, neuropharmacologist Arvid Carlsson was awarded the Nobel Prize for his pioneering research on dopamine, which revolutionized the treatment of Parkinson's disease. Moreover, without the protein-based therapies developed by the biotech company Pharmacia and the vaccines co-produced with GlaxoSmithKline, our arsenal against many diseases would be far more limited. Without the contributions of Swedish researchers to diabetes treatment, the evolution of insulin delivery protocols and glucose sensors would have been much slower. As a result, the global concept of chronic disease management would lag significantly behind, leading to a substantial decline in both life expectancy and quality of life. Since 1876, Ericsson's telecommunications R&D has laid the foundation for multiple generations of mobile technology, from 2 grams to 5 grams. A significant portion of the infrastructure behind modern mobile phones, data transmission, mobile internet, and even the Internet of Things (IoT) is rooted in Swedish innovation. Without Ericsson's technologies such as the precursors to Bluetooth and advancements in mobile base stations, global communication networks would be unimaginably slower and far less reliable today. Consequently, the concepts of instant connectivity and access from anywhere would be incomplete, and the growth of social media and the digital economy would have progressed at a much slower pace. Sweden is one of the world's foremost pioneers in renewable energy and aims to become the first fossil fuel-free nation. Hydroelectric plants, biomass facilities, and wind farms meet a large portion of the country's electricity needs. Additionally, urban waste management systems, zero waste policies, and green tax reforms have made Sweden a model for global climate negotiations. Without these forward-thinking approaches, the Paris Agreement negotiations and international greenhouse gas reduction targets would likely be far less ambitious, leaving us with far fewer tools to combat the effects of climate change. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee is headquartered in Stockholm, where it honors individuals and organizations that contribute to peace, thereby nurturing a culture of international dialogue and reconciliation. Swedish aid agencies such as SIDA and the IKERK Stockholm delegation, play crucial roles in humanitarian missions during natural disasters, civil wars, and refugee crises. Without Sweden's experience in diplomatic mediation and its capacity to mobilize resources, many intractable conflicts would have become bloodier and more prolonged, and the United Nations and other international bodies' crisis intervention capabilities would have been significantly weakened. With free university education and substantial research funding, Sweden has become a global hub for training skilled engineers, scientists, and designers. Institutions such as the Karolinska Institute, Keith Royal Institute of Technology, and Lund University have produced groundbreaking contributions to humanity. Without these universities, global access to high-quality education would be more limited, especially for talented individuals from Eastern Europe and North Africa. The global innovation ecosystem would be far less dynamic and inclusive as a result. The disappearance of Sweden would not only erase its historical contributions but also prevent countless potential discoveries, inventions, and social reforms from ever taking root. The vacuum left behind in terms of technology, culture, and human values would severely weaken society's ability to adapt and progress. Much of the comfort, healthcare, communication ease, and peace culture we enjoy today rests on the determined foundations laid by this small Nordic country. After World War II, Sweden established a small but impactful space and aviation program. The first Viking-sounding rockets launched from the S-Range rocket range in Kiruna in 1966 gathered vital data on the ionosphere and magnetosphere through upper atmosphere measurements. The turbofan engine technologies co-developed by Swedish engineers from Saab and Volvo Aero were among the first licensed jet engine productions in Europe. From the 1970s onward, Sweden actively participated in European Space Agency ESA projects and took responsibility for the design and ground control of scientific satellites such as Odin and Prisma. Without Sweden's contributions, Europe's medium-weight satellite programs and atmospheric sounding initiatives would be significantly underdeveloped. The integrity of space-based data would be compromised, and weather and climate research would rely on much more limited datasets. Sweden became a pioneer in gender equality by granting women the right to vote in local elections in 1919 and national elections in 1921. The Equal Pay Act of 1974 and the Parental Leave Reform of 1995 significantly strengthened gender equity in the workplace. Sweden has consistently ranked among the top 3 countries in the Global Gender Equality Index. Its state-funded women's shelters were among the first comprehensive programs supporting victims of domestic violence. If Sweden had never existed, one of the most tangible gains of the global women's movement would be missing, and the legislative processes of many countries, particularly in the European Union, would have lagged far behind. Structures like the Stockholm Public Library 1928, created through the collaboration of Swedish architects Gunnar Asplund and Sigurd Lorentz, represent classic examples of functionalism's minimalist, human-centered philosophy. The Million Program Miljonprogrammet of the 1960s and 70s aimed to build 1 million new apartments to address rapid urbanization. MOM's use of sustainable infrastructure and green energy in urban redevelopment laid the groundwork for today's new city concept. The clean, simple lines of Swedish interior design have inspired global architecture and design schools. Without Sweden, the vision for social housing models, democratic use of public spaces, and ecological urban transformation would be far more limited. Sweden has contributed to human progress on multiple fronts through its philosophy of being a small country with big ideas, from iron to rockets, Viking ships to space satellites, music to furniture, and social welfare to urban design. Sweden has offered a wealth of innovation and culture. Had Sweden never existed, the loss would not be limited to a geographic region. It would mean the erasure of a comprehensive legacy shaped by scientific standardization, industrial revolutions, cultural movements, and social justice struggles. The world would be a far poorer place than we know today. Don't forget to subscribe.